We are live. What's up, War Report family? You got Ike Jones, final from inside of Neville Arena. Auburn wins versus Kent State 56-79. Go ahead and jump in here, share the video with somebody if you can, and let's get this conversation started. Appreciate you guys for coming in here late tonight. And Auburn gets their third win of the season. It advances to 3-0 and uneven. That's what I would call tonight's performance, uneven. Kent State was down big early, and then Auburn went on a slump of sorts. Kent State closed the lead in the half. Then Kent State starts the second half, and with the technical foul at the end of the half, dead ball foul, they get the free throws, then they come out and shoot a three, and right, like they just go on this massive run there between the end of the half and the beginning of the second half. And, Auburn takes care of business and finish it off, but it is, it's not even disturbing, right? Because I think the only issue I have is that, Auburn kind of falls in love with the 3-point shot a little bit sometimes um, when they're in the lead, and just needs to be a little bit more patient with the offense. The offense got stagnant, particularly when Kent State went to the zone. It got stagnant. But definitely want to hear you all's comments. Again, I definitely want to hear from you all. Make sure if you are in here, you are hitting share on that video. Should be over 30 shares. I want to see over 30 shares of this video before we close this thing down. And hear what you guys have to say about the game tonight. Leading scorer for the Auburn Tigers tonight. Let me make sure I pull up these home statistics here. Was Janai Broom, Chaney Johnson tied for 18 points. Both of them efficient tonight. 8 of 12 for Janai Broom, 8 of 11 for Chaney Johnson. Janai adds another 12 rebounds for another double-double tonight for him. Chaney Johnson with 5 boards and 4 assists. Janai had 4 assists. Monster night for Janai, really, considering he only shot the ball 12 times. Overall, though, not a bad night. Kent State got, hot at some points in time, but not a terrible night. It looked like it was headed towards like a 30-40 piece situation, but Kent State, a lot of grit, a lot of resolve. Not a bad basketball team overall. They're just not very good from three, honestly. If they had been a better 3-point shooting team, maybe they'd have been able to do something. But anyway, let's see what you guys are talking about. Ephesians 2:9 says, kind of to be expected after that Houston game. Wasn't a perfect game and didn't shoot the three well, but still won by 20 plus. JJ Brand says, yeah, it takes several games to get the flow and chemistry down. They are getting good results this early. Could be a very special season. Not bad. Not mad at that. So Nina says, War Damn Eagle, we didn't look as clean tonight. I will take the win. Definitely not a lot of clean basketball happening out there. I just think the half-court offense was stagnant. And honestly, this is what happened versus Vermont as well. For some reason, against these lower-ranked teams, they don't really here's what I will say. Auburn isn't really game planning specifically for these teams as much like as they're just kind of, okay, offensively, specifically. Defensively, they're always going to come out with a very specific game plan of how they want to shut teams down. And I think they executed that defensive game plan fairly well. Offensively, they were just running standard stuff. Like they just weren't getting into a lot of things of like, oh, this is how we want to run this against this defense or the way they defend. Not very much of that. It was really kind of just standard offensive stuff. And it was stagnant because there weren't plays, I think, that they designed for that specific purpose. Ant Robinson says that C. Johnson with the game we've been waiting on. Definitely a good game from Chaney Johnson. Listen, I don't. This ain't the game I've been waiting on from Chaney. I'm waiting on, like, I think he can drop a 30 piece on somebody because I think he's that talented. So I'm waiting on one of those Jay Will explosive type games where he's knocking down the threes and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, there's a game on the horizon, but this was a very solid game from Chaney, a career high game for him. So definitely glad to see him continue to improve his ability, particularly his patience on the offensive end to score. And then he still got the same kind of energy and enthusiasm on the defensive end. So love that with him. Personal fouls tonight, this is a big thing for him. Not a single one. Like foul trouble has really been the thing that has taken him out of a lot of games on the defensive end. He didn't have a single foul tonight. So great job for him tonight. That comeback, says Darius Lee, was not a good look. I mean, listen, basketball is a game of runs. I think they did a good job of shutting the comeback down and extending it back out to 23 points at the end. I think that that's a great look. So yeah, I don't know. It was uncomfortable as an Auburn fan to see them close it within single digits, but that's the resolve of a good team. Is like, all right, cool, y'all had y'all little run. Let's just go ahead and close this out. So Auburn's still playing like a good basketball team. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Tanisha Hayes says they were still high on the Houston win. I would be too. JJ Brand, Ike, I know it's not his style, but when we go into these 5-minute scoring droughts, do you think we should use timeouts? Not against Kent State. No, you play through it against Kent State, maybe against other teams where the momentum is going to be something you can't weather from just a pure, hey man, we've got guys, let's go do it thing. But yeah, against Kent State, you play through it. You're a good enough team. You're a senior enough team to go out there and play through it. James asks, so when Auburn goes cold, why don't they work the ball in the paint more instead of a bunch of threes? This is to me, I think the thing that was the most frustrating was just not great shot selection when your shots aren't going in. Denver Jones was just really cold in general. Denver shot tonight 2 of 7 from 3, and he had some good looks out there. What I did like from him at one point in time, he had the ability to rotate it back over to Miles Kelly when they were going through that drought at the end of the half. He had the ability, or excuse me, this was to start the second half because they were going right to left as you're on the TV broadcast. But he had the ability to swing the ball to Miles Kelly, and instead of doing that, he drives to the lane. He gets fouled, and Miles, was open for that additional rotation. But that's a heads up play by Denver to say, hey, the three's not working right now. I've got the ability to go to the lane. Let me just go to the lane and see if I can create something inside. It gets to the free throw line. I did like that, but there were quite a few threes that I felt like, even though they came rotationally, should have been drives instead of falling in love with the 3-point shot. A lot of passing the ball around the perimeter when they were in the zone, milking the shot clock a little bit too much as well. And then having to force up bad shots at the end of the clock. So definitely not smooth from a zone perspective. Kent State did a pretty good job of taking away the middle pass in the zone that Auburn typically likes to utilize to break that zone. But Auburn wasn't doing a good job of rotating and getting it to the dunker spot, I think, which would have been better. They actually had an opportunity to get it to that dunker, and Tahad overthrew the oop to Simo that one time, but they connected on it later to Chaney Johnson. I can't remember where they were in zone or not, but again, just working the principles against the zone. They take away the middle. All right, so we need to get to the wing and then drive where you have the advantage, and that dunker should be available on the backside, or you have the swing across the skip pass across the other side. So yeah, I didn't like that they fell in love with the 3-point shot a little bit too much. Chess Rockwell asking about whether or not the guys got in. Now, Bruce Pearl said before the game that Hudson and Howard were both still suspended for this game. They were on the bench, but not going to play tonight. Richard Wentland says, really loving what Chaney brings to this team. I do as well. I'm a big Chaney Johnson fan. Ant says, man, nobody knows who will lead this team. It's title or bust. I don't know about title or bust, but it's definitely, my expectation for this team is to make Sweet 16 Elite 8 or bust, right? Like, I think you can get further than that. I think this is a championship caliber team, but if you don't at least make the Sweet 16 / Elite 8, I think that it's going to be disappointing the way that this team is comprised, because there's a lot of basketball ahead of you, and you've got enough depth and quality scores on this team to couple with the elite defensive capabilities that you should be able to go out there and beat some teams in a tournament. Big Jinx says every night's not going to be great offensively. A great night offensively, but we played good defensively, and that's what we need. Listen, man, if you're a good defensive team, you will always have a chance to be in the game. Auburn football realizes this. If you're good defensively, you can always be in the game. Yeah, they didn't shoot the ball well. I don't like again, for me, the dry spots weren't so much about them just not making shots as them not is it was a shot selection during those times. I think they just kind of they got a little lazy in saying, "Oh, well, this is an open shot, let me take it." But if you've missed the last five of them, then hey, let's figure out something else and get to a better shot. So I prefer them. A team that is as senior heavy as this, they figure out a way to do that. JJ Brand says Cheney dropping that weight really elevated his game. I think the issue for Cheney Johnson wasn't necessarily the weight. The weight absolutely helps him to be a little bit more agile, and he already had the explosiveness. Him getting lean, I think, allowed him to really play less clumsily, right? Like I think his athleticism, his he's able to pick it up and put it down a little bit better, and he's more agile, and that's the thing that's really helped Cheney a lot. So I do agree that it's helped his game because he's not stuck in the mud and reaching more. Now he's moving his feet a lot better, and it allows a natural athleticism of him to be able to do the things that he can do. So excellent job by him during the offseason to transform himself into a better basketball player. Let's see. James Moore says, I don't think Cheney gets to 30 points. He shares the ball way too much to get 30. I don't know. Listen, Jay Will is a guy who was very deferential and had the capability of going and getting 30. I think that, I want to see an awesome offensive explosion, a high 20s game from him. I think is something he's very capable of doing, the way that defenses are going to try to take Janai Broom away and then force some of those shooters off the 3-point line. Cheney from the mid-range is going to be available on the additional swing. I think he's definitely capable of doing that. So Nina asking a very important question. Has everyone liked and shared? Please go ahead and do that. There's enough of y'all in here. I said I wanted to see 30 of them before we got up out of here. You know what I mean? I ain't seen no, make it happen. You know what I mean? Make it happen. Let's see here. Stuart Donald says, generic basketball question. When the NCAA switched from jump balls to possession arrows, what was the reasoning behind the change? I don't know the answer to that one, bro. I can't even front. I can make up a reason if you wanted me to. You want me to just lie to you real quick and guess, but I don't know the answer to that. How was the free throw shooting? Terrible. Auburn from the free throw line, it wasn't terrible. I'm exaggerating. 17 to 22, 77%. That's decent. That's decent free throw shooting. It felt bad because in some of those places they were missing the front end of 1-and-1s and things of that nature. Now there were specific people who shot poorly from the free throw line. Dylan Cardwell, 1 of 3. Chad was 6 of 8. Again, it just felt worse than it did. Janai Broom, 2 of 3. It felt bad, but overall, not terrible. 17 to 22 is not terrible from the free throw line. So, Hayden asks, can we be done with the Janai and Cardwell combo experiment? I like the Janai Card. Why don't you like that experiment? Why don't you like that combination out there on the floor? Tell me more about it, Hayden. I need to look at the plus minus when those two are on the floor together. But I think allowing Janai to be able to move further outside on a consistent basis early in the game changes the way that teams have to defend him. And allowing Dylan to get in the game early and be a presence on the inside allows for Janai to change his defensive responsibilities and not have to feel like the shot blocker all the time as well. So I like it. So, tell me why you don't like it. Let's see here. Doug says that, can we please get Pettiford more minutes at point guard? Quit fooling around with Denver and Pegues. I don't think Pettiford had a particularly great night. He got in foul trouble early. I think the plan is to rotate and get him more minutes. He played 23 minutes tonight. Denver had 24. Pegues, who didn't start the game, had 19. So I think that's a pretty good distribution of minutes. Not really sure what the beef is with Pegues and Denver Jones at the point guard. Assist wise, Pettiford had 4 assists. Denver has 2. Pegues had 3. I think all of them played well. Turnovers. Pegues had 2. Or excuse me, Pettiford had 2. The other 2 didn't have any turnovers, so they took care of the basketball. They shared the ball well. Denver had 12 points. So yeah, tell me. So now I have two questions that I need answered from the chat. Why don't you like the big combination, the Twin Towers combination, and why don't you like Denver Jones and JP Pegues at the point guard? Dylan's hands seem to get better each year, says JJ Brand. Listen, he's definitely improved his game as well. Um, Chess Rockwell. So Cheney didn't redeem himself from that missed dunk last week, huh? I kid. Yeah, Cheney was definitely attacking the rim tonight. A lot of great ones there. Um, Hayden says that more athleticism, more quickness defensively, and more spacing on the offense with Janai at the 5 and Cheney at the 4. Yeah. But you also have better shot blocking and better rebounding with Janai at the 4 and Cheney, or excuse me, and Dylan at the 5. And they rotate to that lineup. So yeah, I mean, okay, but you're telling me why you don't like it, which I have no problem with the reasons that you have. But that lineup does see the floor, and I don't dislike the other lineup. So cool. Doug says Pegues puts zero pressure on the D. I disagree with that. He's not as good a scorer as Pettiford for sure. That also doesn't explain why you don't want Denver to be at the point guard. I think Pegues just runs your offense really well, and he's not really there to be a scorer. He's there to be a facilitator. He's still trying to find his place in a situation where, like Denver Jones last year, he's not. He's going from being one of the leading scorers on the team to being a guy that doesn't need to score a lot to be able to impact the game. He plays solid defensively, and he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't have to agree with your takes. I'm here to listen to you all, but yeah. Um, see here. Richard says Pegues will end up being a really big part of this team this year. Book it. I think Pegues he's just one of those guys that you want to be on your squad um because of how solid and how sound he is, right? Like if you get into foul trouble and you need a guy, he can go reach and get it, right? Like that's another thing like Miles Kelly. Miles Kelly started tonight. But he's a guy who isn't being asked to be the guy he was at Georgia Tech. But I don't think there's any issue if some guys are in foul trouble and you're like, look, man, we just need a bucket. We're going to ride the Miles Kelly train all the way to the end of this. Look, give him the ball and get the heck out of the way. I think Miles Kelly can be a guy that can do that for you, man. So, and I think Pegues has that ability as well. And matter of fact, I've seen him do it in big spots, in tournament games, all that kind of stuff for Furman. So, it's difficult to transition from being the guy to being a guy who doesn't need to be the guy when you've been the guy your entire life. Like JP Pegues was the guy in high school. JP Pegues was the guy at Furman. And now he's on a team where he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't have to do that to be effective. And I think he's settling into his role. Where I want to see Pegues get a little bit more aggressive is getting downhill. Um, I think right now he's again trying to figure it out and he's settling a little bit offensively. I see Doug saying he's Zep like, which I don't know that's Zep Jasper was not really good with the ball in his hands attacking. JP Pegues is a better ball handler, in my opinion, than Zep Jasper. Zep was more of a spot up shooter. And Pegues is really a guy who I think functions better off the dribble when he's shooting, but can spot up and shoot. I think he's a better scorer than Zep Jasper, and Zep Jasper was a better defensive player. So I don't know that I agree to the point of your saying that you don't feel like defenses are threatened by him. I don't think you need the defense to be threatened by every single person on the court every single minute that they're playing. He gave you a solid 19 minutes. Let's look at what his plus minus was today. Pegues was a +6 on the night. Denver was a +22. That's crazy. But I think he played solid in his minutes, and you need that stabilizing force. The minutes that he came in and played during the game was during the time where Auburn wasn't shooting the ball particularly well. I think he stabilized the offense a little bit more and let them just kind of run their stuff. So, again, we can disagree on that, and that's fine. Tory Rush says Broom hang around at the 3-point line and the ball don't move well with that big lineup. I don't. Again, I don't. I think that is more of a product of them needing to do a better job of running the offense than it is the lineup that's there. Um, so because they run the same offense with Cheney in the game as they do with Broom. Broom has to make better decisions, I think, out top and not fall in love with the 3-point line. But again, listen, I'm not mad at anybody having an opinion that differs from mine. I welcome all the thoughts. Chess says, Ike, your thoughts on the commitment from Magwood. Haven't looked at it. Honestly, you guys know I don't really get into the recruiting stuff, but I will absolutely, once the ink dries on that situation, then I will definitely get into that. I am pretty sure the guys at the Up Tempo podcast will have more things regarding commitment stuff that I will specifically have. But once the ink dries on it, I'm all over it. We're gonna talk about all of that, man. So y'all stay tuned for that. Let's see here. Definitely some good things happening for the Auburn basketball team on and off the court. I love the fact that Bruce Pearl is handling things the way that he is with the whole situation. Team still winning basketball games, still being aggressive defensively, kind of need to be a more consistent offensively. And I say that as if they didn't, do well, but listen, just they shot 49% from the field, which is good. 25% from three, though, which is not good. I think they took too many threes tonight for them to not have been shooting it well. But 25% is not where this team needs to be. I think that once this team gets into the tougher competition, and you're going to need to see them shoot closer to 30 something percent and at least make 10 threes in that game. They only made 6 tonight. I think Auburn's going to need to be a 10 plus 3 per game team in order for the offense to work the way that it needs to. And they're just going to have to work on getting better shots in the flow of the offense. I feel like a lot of the threes tonight were stagnant threes, not in the flow, late shot clock forces type of stuff. So just be better about those sorts of things. Let's see. Virginia Double Dribble said Kent State beat Louisiana by 5. Houston's up about 50 on Louisiana tonight. I watched that Louisiana and Kent State game, and listen, let me tell you, Louisiana was locking up Kent State first half of that game and playing really, really aggressively offensively. But hey, this is the nature of basketball is matchups, and sometimes it's your night. Listen, Louisiana getting blown out by Houston. Houston just lost to Auburn. Kent State beat Louisiana. Transitive property doesn't really work. There are going to be some good games to, measure yourself against. Kent State's probably not one of them. You still won the game by 23. So, all right, man. Don't want to take up too much of the night, but I appreciate you guys jumping in here with me. We will talk so much more basketball coming up soon because this is going to be an interesting basketball season, to say the least. Before y'all get out of here, make sure that you like this video, hit that thumbs up, share the content with somebody, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back at you guys with more great content later. We'll talk a little bit more football as we get into the end of the week. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.